a state agency to fund technology commercialization projects from university and to startup seed fund. I welcome Dr. Hina. Happy, pleasant good morning to you. Now I request Mrs. Gomadi to welcome Hina Mehta. Good morning.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Welcome பண்ணுங்க.
I thank Rangapandian sir for this insightful talk explaining in layman terms about the initiatives by the patent office. Now I request Ms. Hina Mehta, and I take the privilege to introduce her. Madam is a director, Office of Technology Transfer, George Mason University. She holds a PhD in neuroscience from Indian Institute of Chemical Biology, India, and an MBA from Robert H. Smith School of Business, University of Maryland. She oversees aspects of bringing university-initiated innovations to the marketplace and is responsible for developing strategies for marketing, licensing, and commercialization of IP. She brings together industry experts to assess the portfolio of multidisciplinary inventions and facilitate seed funding through intramural mechanisms. Her previous experience includes biomedical research, strategic consulting, and co-founding a startup. She devotes her free time to 3 non-profit organizations and serves as an advisor and mental health ambassador. She is of Maryland Governor Citation and Volunteer Excellence. For us to have your talk here, ma'am. Over to you.
Dr. Srinivasan and Dr. Gomati for a warm welcome. And I would just like to add one thing, that I recently changed my job. So I'm no longer a George Mason University technology transfer person. But however, I do still work in the same space in technology commercialization and helping the startups. I'm now part of Virginia Innovation Partnership Corporation, and it is a state agency, and our goal is to advance the university-based technology commercialization projects and the startup companies in Virginia. And how we do it is by providing them with the very early startup seed funding. So I run that program as a part of the state. And so now I work across the Virginia state with multiple universities. Again, doing the similar thing, advancing intellectual property and technology commercialization projects. So with that, let me share my screen. Okay. Let me know if you are able to see the presentation, hopefully.
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Thank you. Okay. So as I mentioned, I now head the commercialization division at Virginia Innovation Partnership Corporation, and we are a state agency founded for the benefit of state to advance the technology commercialization throughout the university in Virginia, as well as the startup companies that are founded in Virginia. And I'll definitely talk about a little bit later on how state can support these kind of initiatives and at least how it's done here in the US. But before that, let me kind of give an overview of how the whole ecosystem of intellectual property and technology commercialization works here. And as many of us, I started my, as Gomati mentioned, I did my PhD in neuroscience at Indian Institute of Chemical Biology, Calcutta, India, and I came here for my postdoc fellowship. And I'd like to say this because, it's kind of, just as in more like of a, overview on what all career pathways exist beyond research and beyond your PhD degree. Academic career path is always there. If you you can always pursue faculty positions. But if you have, more outward facing interest, the way I had, I chose to kind of, go pursue another degree of MBA after finishing my postdoc at NIH, because I always wondered that how does industry take their research to the marketplace so quickly, and why all these discoveries, wonderful discoveries, we do it in academic settings. We publish the paper and we are kind of done. But there are a lot of good discoveries that are sitting within the university walls, and how can we make sure that we take these technologies out to the market? So that was my kind of motivation to pursue a business degree with the goal that I'll go and work in industry. But when I was pursuing my MBA, I kind of realized that in US, every university has an office called Technology Commercialization Office, and their role is to take this intellectual property discovered and filed by university to the market. And when I say market, means it's more like an industry, find industry partner who will develop it into products and ultimately bring that wonderful research and hard work of our academic institutions to the end users. So that fascinated me a lot, and I thought this seems to be something I kind of would love to pursue, because that keeps me connected with the academic institutions. I'm not going and becoming this hardcore industry person, and I'll be still able to work with university. I'll still be able to work with science, but by doing something out of non-bench work, for example. So that led me to this technology commercialization office at George Mason. I was at George Mason for 10 years, and just 2-3 months ago, I had this wonderful opportunity to do something much, much more broad throughout the state. So I took that opportunity and moved to VIPC. First few slides, I will not spend a lot of time, because I'm sure this has been discussed a lot over several presentations, and many of you might be in the intellectual property field, so you are definitely aware what is intellectual property right. So intellectual property rights are something intangible that is kind of gives a right to the owner to exclude others from using it. And it is intellectual property. It means you have developed something, you have conceived something, and how can you kind of utilize it best to the best advantage. And then there were this kind of names were given. They are called patents, they are called trademarks, copyrights, and trade secrets. As many of you might be aware, that a patent provides a grantee a right to exclude others. You may practice or you may not practice, but it definitely provides a right that others cannot practice it without your permission. And that is the piece that leads to the technology commercialization, that if I'm not going to be able to use it, I can definitely exclude others from using it. But is it possible that I let them use it with my permission, where we can have a deal between two parties that, if you utilize this my patent and you monetize it, you take it, you build it into a product and generate some revenue from that, can I benefit from that? And that is what in the essence technology commercialization is, and that's what any university technology commercialization office's goal is, to do that. And again, given that it is limited time in the term, you want to make best use of your intellectual property, because you have invested your time and energy while developing that intellectual property, and then there is a money which is like you spend over prosecuting the patents. Especially US patents can get very, very expensive. It runs from anywhere between $15,000 to $25,000. So at the end of the day, everyone wants to recoup that expense. Copyright is again something similar. It's an given to the original work that author gets a right to. Similar like the patents, it is also a limited time period, and it protects the author from others copying and publishing their work without their permission. And some of the examples for copyrights are like we all know that it's like photographs, books, music, and especially with the music, it has become a very a serious issue when it comes to copyright. And these days we will even see on Facebook Live, when the artists are performing, they have to make sure they completely put that disclaimer that the music does not belong to me. I'm just using it, so that it is not misused by the people without the permission of the creator. Because at the end of the day, the creator has put in so much of hard work into making that music. Again, trademarks, as we all are familiar with these logos. That is an identity or a brand identity of the companies. Usually companies, they like to have this unique brand and build their identity around that, and that's how they secure their intellectual property, by reserving some trademarks on it. Trade secret is another form of intellectual property, and anything can be trade secret as long as you can keep it as a secret, and only few people know about it. So this is an audience question. If anyone would like to guess which one is the best kept trade secret in the world so far. Any guesses?
Formula.
Yes. Coca-Cola has the best kept trade secret. It has been said, it has been like, it has been told, like lots of people, they talk about this, that, Coke formula is still a trade secret. People don't know how to replicate it. They have specific protocols in their manufacturing plant where only few people have access to the concentrate before it actually goes into the mass production. Employees are bound by their contracts when they join that particular core group, so that and it's a lifelong non-confidentiality agreement contracts, so that they are bound by those laws that they have to keep it secret. And if they do any material breach, then of course Coca-Cola can sue them. And I'm pretty sure that all of you are very much well aware that in US, everyone loves to file a lawsuit for trivial things. And once you get into the lawsuit, you are, bound to be really punished by monetary. So, you don't want to get into any sort of lawsuits here. So people abide by this rule, and it has been still a trade secret, which is amazing. So let's get a little bit into how technology commercialization works, and what in India also, like I'm so glad to hear. I have been connected to Dr. Srinivasan for last 3-4 years. I happened to meet him by chance, and I was so fascinated to learn about all the emphasis the state has been doing to get behind intellectual property, protect the inventors, encourage the startup by giving them certain advantages when it comes to patent. And what we just heard in the previous talk by Dr. Tyaga, that how much facility. I was fascinated that what kind of support system state and Indian government has provided to their startup companies. All these expedite reviews, all this monetary subsidy to file patents, and the examination you can defend, and you can do your patent examiner interview just sitting in your home. And this is all really fascinating. So I'm so glad to see that we have, as a country, getting behind to protect our intellectual property, which US has been doing for years. And that is why the innovation is thriving here. Because when you innovate, an inventor is sure that they have a protection, they can get a benefit out of it. When you don't get that protection, then you kind of, if you are aware that if I invent something, somebody is just going to copy me or steal from me and just produce in its their name, then you don't have incentive. However, having this kind of a support system in India is starting to provide that protection to the inventors. So that first part has been really greatly taken care of. So they say, for example, as an inventor, you come up with an idea either in a university or as a startup company. You go ahead, you file your patent. That's great. But once you file the patent, now what? Now, how do you take that patent to the next stage of as a product that you will finally start seeing the fruits of your work as a physical product somebody is really using? That is what kind of, we say we transfer that knowledge or education through either teaching or through the strategic partnership. I say teaching and learning because these days there is an emphasis here that not all intellectual property can be a tangible product. There may be a way to do something. There may be a very, very intangible way to treat a patient, for example, talk therapy. But there are certain steps you need to do in that talk therapy that will work with a patient. Can we do something about that specific protocol? And yes, we do that. Maybe we can protect it through a copyright, because now it becomes a more literature kind of a intellectual property. That's why you can build upon any sort of technology or a finding into a intellectual property. So this is what, in US, a technology commercialization output looks like. The way it works is that in the university, as I mentioned, that you have an IPR office now. That IPR office can serve as a technology commercialization office. If you are a faculty member or you are an IPR office administrator, encourage your researcher to come and disclose their invention. So in US, again, this is a little, ATM is a technology commercialization professionals association. I'm part of it. And this ATM publishes this data time to time. It's long due that this year they should publish the latest data. So this is a little 2 or 3 year old data. Because of pandemic, a lot of things didn't go as planned in surveys and collecting data and everything. Yet you can see the remarkable numbers here, that almost about 380,000 inventions were disclosed throughout the universities across the US. Out of that, almost 80,000 plus US patents were issued out of those disclosures. Not all disclosure lead to a patent application. That's where Technology Transfer Office does their diligence in the beginning based on the patent law. Is it novel? Is it non-obvious? And most importantly, does it have a commercial potential? What if I had to take this technology, file a patent, what the path looks like? Based on that, they make the decision on filing the patent or not. As I mentioned, that big universities like MIT, Stanford, they get 400 disclosure per year or more than that. And if they start filing every single thing, then they need definitely huge budget. So in this case, you have to do a pick and choose, and then ultimately, once you file the patents, that leads to either directly licensing deals with the existing industry or the startups. either the faculty will start a startup, or a PhD student will start a startup, or the postdocs will do it, or some entrepreneur from outside will come and say, you know what, I saw this technology that you advertise, and I'm really interested in taking it and building a startup around it. And with that, there are more than 12,000 startups were formed. And 70% of the university licensed innovation, they end up as a startup or small companies. Because sometimes it is needed that you start as a small startup, you raise some fund, build that prototype, de-risk that technology, then the big industry will come and say that, I'm interested in taking this further. Not all, every time the big industry partners like, Pfizer or Eli Lilly will come and right away take that compound that you have just discovered and turn it into a billion-dollar drug. They want to see that you have done toxicity study, you have done efficacy study, you have finished certain phase 1 clinical trial. So that's where startup comes into play. They try to de-risk all these phases of the initial technology development, make it attractive to the big pharma industry, and then they sell it off at much, much higher valuation. And when these startup companies are in that phase, we all know that it's a valley of death. They need to find money to sustain them. And even the angel investors don't come too early, where there are still lots of question mark around it. And that is where the organization currently I work with, we come in play. That's a state resource. So our budget comes from state, and basically we are the fund managers for state. State allocates certain fund to support startups as well as university technology commercialization, so that they can cross this valley of death. So our goal is to find all this kind of university-based projects or the startup companies, invite them to apply for the funding, listen to their pitch, and make that funding decision, so that they can go to a stage where now they will be ready for an angel investor. And we also have, as a part of my organization, we also have a venture capital arm that is like a next step. So I sit much early on, where it is more a grant funding. So my goal is just to see that, yes, they met their milestones. If we give them a certain amount of money, $100K, $200K, $1,000, they will do what they are supposed to do to reach that next step. And then it comes to the venture capital arm, where they will be more interested in taking the equity in the company. And again, by doing this commercialization, US has really, really big, very well-known products that actually came out of the universities and the research organizations. More than 800 products have been so far created that totally came out of university. So this is some of the landscape. I was just like looking for, for the, to compare comparatively study between the US and India. And it's amazing to see that between, again, this is a little old data. This is the best I could find. But it is very fascinating to see that there are almost 5,000 patents that has been filed in US by Indian companies. Of course, these are big tech companies, Wipro, Tata, Infosys, and also some of the Mahindra and Bharat Petroleum non-tech companies. However, this is the kind of effect, our research and our technology can do, because they are still needed. Okay, I'm not sure why this. So how this whole tech transfer thing started here was by law. In 1980, Congress passed the law that any inventions that come out of federal funding Means if any university receives government money to do the research, that research has to be utilized for public benefit. And how do you utilize for public benefit? By transferring it to the industry partners. So it kind of, when you have a mandate, then everyone is kind of required to do so by law. Then the whole process started developing from 1980. So in nutshell, I'll kind of give you how the big overview of the process. As you kind of see here, it starts somewhere here, that you have a research and you have a faculty who says, you know what, I have found a new way to purify water. It's great, you publish the paper, but as you kind of all know, that if you publish the paper, it becomes a public disclosure. And once you have a public disclosure, your time kind of starts running out to file a patent. So at least in our case here, as a technology transfer office or a person, you would keep educating your faculty much early on, that before you go to publish a paper, please come to our office, file a disclosure, let us take a look at it. If there is an invention here, first step we will do is file a patent on it. So do that education piece of it and get their invention disclosure form. Once you get that invention disclosure form, second step is making that assessment. Assessment in terms of, yes, there is a invention, there is a subject matter that is patentable, or maybe it is a copyright subject matter. So you make all those kind of, your own assessments. Then you do a commercial assessment, that yes, if this patent is filed, this is the kind of, pathways or technology market looks like. It's a water purification method. These are the companies in this space, and they have this product. So you basically do a comparative analysis on existing solution versus your newly found invention, where it fits in. So that is what I call commercial assessment. And then of course there is a market assessment, that if suppose this had to build into the product, what kind of market does it look like? Who are the end users? And if these are the end users, who might be the right company to partner with? So once I file a patent, my goal is to go to those companies and talk to them so that they will do a licensing deal for this patent and the invention. So you do that assessment piece of it here. Then next step is, of course, first do the patent filing on that, get all the things and paperwork in place. Then of course, faculty is free to go and submit the paper for publication, because they also need paper, because their tenure is dependent on publication. Their next grant is dependent on publication. So you don't want them to not publish it. So next step is, okay, you go ahead and publish your paper while we have taken care of, patent. Then again, the next step comes down to finding that licensee I talked about. Since in your market assessment and commercial assessment, you identified some industry partners, start reaching out to them through conferences, trade show, direct contacts. These days, LinkedIn is the best resource for that. I usually use LinkedIn, look up who is in that company, who is in product development, who is their general counsel for intellectual property, because sometimes they make these decisions, and reach out to them and present them that we have this technology developed, you are doing this, this, and this. I think our technology will very fit in your portfolio. Would you like to have a conversation with our faculty, with us, whether they are interested in licensing? Most of the time, if it is a startup, usually entrepreneurs, at least, here are very savvy. They keep looking at the publications. They have eyes on certain faculty member. They keep looking what they are publishing, and they reach out to our office and ask that such and such faculty published this paper. By chance, do you have a patent which you would like to license, because I'm thinking of starting a company? Or you may know somebody that might be a serial entrepreneur in that field. So it can go in any direction, and you have to try all, because when you try 5 ways, one thing will stick probably. And this is where it is like, sometimes it's not yet ready. There is a potential, but still it needs a lot of studies. Or if it's an IT, it may be, whatever program faculty has developed needs to be developed in a different language, for example, and that they need money for that. So that is where either university provides some funding if they have resources. Not all universities have that kind of funds. That's where again the organization currently I work with comes in a play. So in my current role right now, that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to reach out to all the universities in Virginia, working with their tech transfer office, because having come from that side, now I know who are the right people and what kind of technologies would need this kind of a funding. So I establish that relationship and have that conversation, look at their patent portfolio and ask them that, okay, we have this funding, apply for this so that it can be again ready for the licensing deal. So then you get into the licensing negotiation. You did negotiate the term sheet, whoever is licensing your technology, even if it's a startup or it's an existing company. Try to execute a win-win license because you want to maintain a long-term relationship. In generally with the startup companies, our goal is to not charge them a lot upfront because they need money to build that business. If as a university, if we start charging them 100K at the time of license, then they don't have any money left to, develop that product. So just usually these are very friendly terms that, yes, okay, you take this license right now, don't pay us anything. Once you reach certain, fundraising, then they can pay certain issue fee. Or once they start selling the product, then this is the percentage of royalty they will share with us. They might reimburse the patent cost. They might pay us annual maintenance fees. So that is where the deal negotiation comes in place. And when the company starts generating revenue, they pay certain percentage to the university. And every university has a policy where we split certain percentage. Again, at George Mason, when I was at George Mason, our policy was to split 50% with the inventor. So whatever revenue university generates from licensing deal, we give 50% of that to the faculty member who invented that, because it's their hard work. They should be incentivized for that so that they can keep being motivated to do that research. So this is kind of, general tech transfer process looks like. If you're really interested, by MIT, you can look up on their tech transfer office website. You'll be able to find this graphic if you really want to get into a little bit more details. So this is one of the very famous example what a invention can do. In 1965, at University of Florida, when their team used to play in that hot Florida summer, the games, and they constantly used to get dehydrated, and they were always in that makeshift electrolyte solutions. And at that time, Dr. K came up with this, he was a chemistry professor, and he kept mixing different formulations which will give the sportsmen electrolytes they needed. And with that generated this Gatorade formula. And once that formula they saw that big difference in sportsmen's capability to perform. University of Florida started a manufacturing plant and gave a license to a small manufacturing company, and that's how Gatorade was originated. And right now, the company pays over 200 million in royalty to university, plus as a sports drink, nutrition drink. Great example of what a university invention or a finding can become a very, very popular commercial product. Similarly, who knew that 2 years ago N95 mask will become such a necessity for so many people? Once again, N95 mask was developed in 1995. by Dr. Sai at University of Tennessee. And it has been there, it has been licensed to kind of, it was much more in industry kind of setting. They had 5 patents in 1995, and now he has almost 12 US patents. But just in 2019, they had to expand their licensing deals to so many other companies so that they can start making, mass production on N95 mask when the global pandemic hit. So this is another example of technology commercialization, how a technology developed in the material science and engineering college came to everyone's hand today, and we all have been using this. I've already kind of, covered this, that there are 2 ways to go technology commercialization. Either you go direct licensing deal with an existing company or with a startup company. And one startup company gets to a stage where they can get acquired by a big company. And this is one example I really like to talk about, that, this is a classic example how a startup company, you start with a licensing with a startup company that ends into a big company. This is a threat detection in cybersecurity technology that was developed by this gentleman whom you are seeing right now on the screen, Dr. Anup Ghosh at George Mason University. He was a faculty member. He developed cybersecurity technology, and he was really entrepreneurial minded. So what he did was that when once university filed his patents, and he had 3 or 4 patents, yes, he took a risk. He quit his job as a faculty. He started his own company, Invencia, the logo you see behind. Worked through building that company from 1 person to almost 30 employees, right on the same street where the university is. When I pass, I drive by, I every day see that Invencia logo. Built it into 30 people company, filed many more patents, developed their technology, started selling the products. And then it became so it kind of were so valuable that 2 years ago, right around the Christmas time, one of the big cyber company from UK, Sophos Inc. bought Invencia for more than $100 million, and he exited. And then Sophos invited him to become their chief technology officer for 1 year, so that he can transition his company and his technology into the products of this big company, Sophos. So again, commercial path can come in many different directions, and this is one of our success story at George Mason. The other one happened last year, right before I left. One of the technology in life sciences, in a microscope technology that I had licensed to a startup company in 2018 or 2017. 2017 or 2018, we licensed it to a startup company. It's a 1-person startup company. He did fundraising. He brought that money back to the faculty to do further research. Developed the technology to a stage where it was attractive to a bigger company. And that startup company was acquired by another publicly traded company from California, Fluidigm. That's into an instrumentation company. So they bought that company in 2019, right before pandemic. So again, that's another success story. The product is out in the market. They have been selling the units. So again, you have to make the decision whether as an IPR office or as a tech transfer office, you have to make the decision where this technology fits right now. It may have a better path in future. As kind of, this is a kind of, I would just say that in nutshell, an IPR office can definitely take that, step of encouraging faculty members to file a disclosure, file their patents, and contact the companies that might be interested in taking the license to that patent, and on the revenue out of that. With that, I will end my presentation and Happy to take any questions you may have on this particular topic. Otherwise, I'm really thankful for this opportunity to share some of the things on IPR as well as the tech commercialization.